whenever that had happened, for some reason, this PC decides to restart itself. But hopefully everyone can see it. Everyone, again, if anyone doesn't have to refresh, you have to refresh maybe, but it should be up now. So if the people can't see anything, tell them to refresh their stream. F5, please.
Hello
exactly.
again.
Hello. So we caught up, or we were talking in hopes that we were still here, but we just had a question. What about night fog?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not sure when we actually cut out, but the thing is, the fog at night is actually stronger than it is at the foggy missions. You can see that when you look at the explosions, for example, or the fire. It illuminates a lot of fog. It's not so visible for you because it's very dark, obviously, and here you have like bright fog, so you see it better. And also we use something called a ramp at night. So we can change the behavior of the fog. So it's not like a linear distribution over the distance. We can say we want more like an exponential behavior and say we have much less fog in the foreground and we have way more fog in the background. We can do something like that. And this is something we use for night, for example.
And is it then not at every place? Like, is there more fog on specific places at night? Or is there as much fog distributed as regular?
Yeah, it's also different. So night uses like a ground fog volume. So we have much more fog at the ground and not much in the sky. So that's why you see the moon, for example, and the clouds and so on.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
I mean, little clouds, but just a little bit, yeah. So that's different, but the actual fog intensity at night in the play area is actually pretty high.
Okay, interesting.
It's in fact double.
I notice it usually when I walk near when you're at the start near spawns where there's like a lot of trees and stuff. If you have the light out, then you can pretty clearly see the fog as well.
So for everybody just joined, we're currently looking a little bit at the development process of how the fog time of day came into life, basically, because it was actually a long development process. It took, I mean, it was on and off. I had like other things to work on, of course, but I think it took like 3 months or something like that. I mean, for that, you think it should be really simple, like you just take a time of day, add some fog, and you're done, but it wasn't that simple.
So how long was it compared to, for example, night and day?
They also were really long.
Okay,
because these were like our first time of days. We had lots of feedback from all different departments. I mean, everybody has a say when it comes to lighting, be it like lead game designer Dennis, be it like our game director Magnus, and creative director as well. Level design, artists obviously want their art to look good and also make lots of, like, for example, Alexander Asmus, weapon artist, made lots of comments about how his weapons looks like in certain lighting conditions and so on.
Okay. That was pretty far.
Pretty much every department gets touched by it in some way or another, so you have lots of feedback and lots of people to make happy.
There was one question that we got from the people through Discord that I actually already want to ask right now then, because we used to have darker night missions.
Yes.
Why did we make them lighter? Like, what was the choice to make it lighter than it is now?
Yes. Well, it was just basically, there was a relatively smallish group that said, this really almost pitch black is cool, but the majority of people thought it was a bit too dark, and we then measured it. So we went to the darkest spots, and we can take screenshots, we can analyze them in Photoshop with like a histogram, and we can look at the mean values, and the darkest was like 6 or something like that, so really almost completely pitch black. That was like in the forest. And then we bumped it up to, I'm not totally sure, but it was 12 or 15. So we doubled at least, or a little bit more. And the thing is, people will just crank up their monitors like crazy to get a little bit of an edge, you know. And that's not really something we want people to do. We want them to be able to play the game with like normal gamma settings, like properly adjusted monitors. In the future we will add like an actual gamma slider for sure. I mean, that's gonna come. But this was the decision basically, and so far we did surveys on it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so far the feedback was positive. People like it better, so we're gonna keep it. I mean,
yeah, and I also feel because there was a lot of people also from like broadcasters, but in general we heard a lot of people in the Discord are like, I'm not playing the night times because it's just I can't properly see, it's too dark. So yeah, in that one we listened to the feedback from the people. So.
Very true, very true. And it's probably still relatively dark for streaming, I would say. I mean,
I would say it's a pretty good like
better.
balance. Yeah, definitely.
But still, majority of gameplay I saw at least was still mostly was definitely not 50-50 night and day. So that was another big thing. And yeah, this is probably something we can mention here as well. So we have golden obviously with the really long view distances. We have night with short view distances, and we wanted foggy to be a little bit
in between.
Yes, exactly. Like we wanted to have like night like gameplay or a bit close to it, but during a day. So we didn't want this super long view distances, but we wanted people to see clearly, to be able to stream and so on. So it's just better for presenting as well.
Okay. Let's look a bit more at content. So we talked about the particle effects getting more advanced.
Yes,
here.
Exactly. So this is some more captures of early particles. They were done by Alexander Weiss, very talented VFX artist. So yeah, this is just some footage during the development I captured. You can still see the ambient rain, which we later dropped. I mentioned this already.
Yeah, how far in was the rain in until it got dropped?
It's not like much development effort. I mean, we have a rain entity. We just place it there, we tweak the values and so on.
We can go to a bit further in the video.
But we're also not really happy with the current quality of this rain entity. So we want to develop something nicer. The rain entity at this very moment is more like a screen effect. You have puddles on the floor and you have like particle impacts. They look cool. But the actual rain is really flat. And before we would ship some potential rain in the future, this was probably interesting. Let's pause here.
Oh yeah.
Before we ship some potential rain in the future, we want to make this better as well. So this version was not much development effort. It was just existing tech. But if we want to do it, we want to do it right.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Then we did a lot of tests with like view distances. Again, this is an earlier version of fog. This is not how it currently looks like.
Yeah,
but we did a lot of tests with how far can I see, how far can I see against the sun, how far can I see opposite direction, and so on. And just to give you guys some insight, basically, how we actually developed that stuff. We can go on.
Nice tree. Applause at the tree.
Yeah. All right. So this version was later play tested, and I already mentioned this a little bit. It was a bit too busy. It was not. There was too much going on, and we want to see a bit more clear. This version, what we see right now, is much more to the current version. That's pretty close. You see, you have like nice soft gradients. You still have the volumetric fog, but it's just way more subtle in a way. The image is more soft. It's easier on the eye, and it makes for less fatigue while you play. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, we had feedback from like people playing. They said like, oh, it was so hard, and I always had these patches of fog, and it's just hard on the eyes, and this is a bit more soothing in a way. And,
especially the older ones are very in your face, like whites.
Exactly, and that stuff is gone. Also, the whites needed to go for gameplay reasons, like I mentioned earlier. Just also aiming with the weapon was really bad, and you had a lot of overblown areas and so on.
Yeah, it's now subtle, like it's more the lingering fog rather than it's like foggy, you can't see anything.
There's one question which we can probably take also from the community here. This is, where is it, with the fog over the water? It's this one here, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So, Unor asks, I have a question about the fog for tomorrow.
Today.
Could it be possible to make the fog thicker over watery parts of the water, like fishery, lumber mill, catfish grove, and so on, and keep the thickness in the other areas? This is something we could definitely do. There will be no problem. We can use fog volumes to make the fog thicker in certain areas. And this is probably something we will also do. But right now it was more about getting the general look right, getting the gameplay right, getting the combat distances right, and the atmosphere and so on. These were more like finishing touches, and we obviously like a live game, so this is something.
I'm curious because how much do we still tweak on like the times of days after we're live with them?
Oh, we do actually, yeah. So
like, and how much? For example, can you give some examples that we did on previous times?
Golden, we did a lot of tweaks, like usually Magnus Labrand, our game director. He has some input on that thing, and it mostly affects the look basically. So Golden went from being more orangey, purpley, and I mean not like really purple, but just notches of color, to being way more yellow and warm now. So it used to be colder, it's warmer now, and also the distance fog turned more orange compared to previous versions. It's a bit more colorful. There's definitely tweaks. It mostly affects the look at this point. So everything else we try to nail, but it mostly affects the look, but also many other things. For example, we can calibrate the tone mapping. The tone mapping we're rendering in HDR, and the tone mapping basically we can control if you're on the interior, how bright is the exterior. Like, you know this effect if you're like in an interior room and the outside is really blown out. Right?
Yeah,
stuff like that. And this is something which I think looks cool, is relatively realistic, but it's of course not so good for gameplay because you want to be in the inside, shooting out. You don't want a completely overblown image. So we tweak a lot of things like that also very recently. So these are the kinds of things. It's not so visible for you guys, but there's a lot of little things we tweak in the back. These kind of things, yeah.
Okay, shall we, do we want to still
yeah, we can. This is almost over.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So this is pretty much the current version. Nice soft, you see also nice soft gradient in the treetops.
Yeah.
And these sort of things. Sometimes it depends on the area. It can look a little bit flat, but in this case, flat is good for gameplay reasons. Yeah, it's definitely not as flashy as before.
No. Yes. Where do we want to look at now? Some old screens, or?
I think we can go a little bit on the old screens.
I mean, it would be interesting to see like the progress that we made.
Yeah.
Stills.
Yeah, that should be cool.
I think we can all add them to it. You check if it automatically plays next. Yeah.
Yeah,
awesome.
That should be fine, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I prepared some screenshots as well. Still something, stuff I had on my hard drive, so just can show you guys the progress. This is again this really blown out white version.
It would be a lot harder.
Environment
to
was
play
pretty
like...
dark. And this will be just much harder to play, and for playtest reasons we didn't want to have this. You see here how patchy it is and so on. At some point we were also really dark, almost like a bad weather day. Like that, looks like an approaching storm or something like that. Also,
I mean,
a bit too dark.
That is something that's been asked about. People want the storm time of day.
Yes. Yeah, we're talking about it. We have multiple directions we can go. It's definitely something we will add new times of days. I think it's a cool way to give new flavor to the map, give new life to the map. And it's not yet decided what will be next time of day. And also I think it's really cool if there's like gameplay implications. So if it's really a storm, it can be noisy, for example, and you can hear shots less good. That could be like also affecting gameplay. That's something that could be very good. And so on and so forth. So, a lot of that was covered in video. That was maybe interesting. This is like problems we had. Again, going a little bit back to the history. This is basically with the volumetric fog, objects cast shadows. But we have either fog or no fog. And what we can then do is to sort of like add an ambient level for fog, but that can also make it very flat, sort of like, I mean, it goes very technical now, but if you like would light something in the game, you have a certain ambient level that will make your image more flat. And this is, for example, an example where we had not much ambient level, the fog rays were super strong, and of course looks super weird. This is something we would never
It's as if there's a disco ball hiding behind the...
This is really like progress developer shots. It's not about showing pretty pictures, it's more about showing you the challenges we faced.
I do really like this shot because of the way the focus is of the image. It's very interesting.
This was sort of like, we also grade the image, of course. So this were sort of the colors we were happy with. So it is this blue grayish, really desaturated tone. Looks very different from all the other time of days. And you see very gray,
very white,
very white. I think it's good that we didn't ship it like that.
I think that would be a lot of effects, way too much in the game.
Kind of still dig that kind of style, but it's I think it's good what we have right now. It's fine. And so the challenge with something like that is always the fog makes everything flat. It basically reduces contrast in the image, and the challenge is always to still make the image interesting in a way. So,
I know what you mean.
That's why we need like texture in the fog. Either be it like rain, or be it particles, or be it like fog rays, or something like that. So that's always like a big challenge to do stuff like that.
And what other challenges did you have during making the fog?
We of course had many talks about the actual distances we can look at. So we now, I think this was also one of the questions actually, which we can answer now.
Distances.
Here, Master P asks, how far can you see in the fog? We have about 80 meters combat distance right now. So our maximum combat distance, which we aim for in general in the game, is like 150 meters. So
and that's with or without scope?
Doesn't matter. Both cases. So this is something which we say, okay, this is basically the maximum we want. We of course have some areas when you're on the top of the church tower or something like that, you will see further. But in general, this is what we aim for. And we wanted to reduce this, of course. And the first versions were also, you could see much less. It was really thick fog. And of course it looked cool and was really different, but it was just eliminating the long-range weapons a bit too much. It was just, again, for gameplay reasons.
That's also something we hear. Why do we not have dynamic weather?
Because it's pretty hard to do. Something we would love to do in the future, of course. But right now it has so many implications and everybody is just super busy. And if we have the choice between, let's say, the audio department, of course, they would need to make like dynamic sound effects and so on. If you have the choice between them making sounds for new enemies or bosses or something, or doing something like that, I think
there is a priority.
There's a priority and that kind of things. And it's the same for all the other departments. There's many things we would like to do, but it comes down to priorities and everybody is very busy. And dynamic time of day at the moment is not so high up the list. It's more
getting other stuff in the game.
On delivering other time of days. Also, there was another question, another part to the question from Master P. Does fog impact bullet passing?
No, right?
No.
It's just not. Visually. It doesn't affect the bullets. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, no, just...
it's just... previous version. This is another shot, like
Yeah.
very dense.
Looks
very,
a lot like England.
Yeah, it's very
Unexpected.
movie-esque, like cinematic in a way, but it looks cool, but it's not serving our gameplay, and gameplay is king, and this is we want players to have
Have we
fun.
actually properly playtested with something that is super foggy and rainy as this?
Yeah. We playtested pretty much this version.
And
yes.
what people like? I'm very curious. Like, is it still because this was without the audio or with audio already added, like white noise?
Oh no, there was no white noise.
Okay,
no. The white
yeah.
noise never came.
I'm actually very curious to see how it would affect the game, because it would be obviously a completely different game if it was you technically hear nothing.
Yes.
But
this was purely visually. It was too hard to see people. It was too hard on your eyes and so on. This is why we dropped this version. So some people say we are too quiet. Is this actually the case?
are we too quiet? No, I
Because
think the
the
volume should be
meters are fine, right?
Yeah, maybe try turning up your volume.
Yeah. Here you see the patchiness in the fog.
yeah.
So
no,
it doesn't
it's-
look good in all the shots. Like here it looks super bad. Here it looks not so great. And this goes more towards the current version what we have right now.
just without the rain.
Yeah, I think we're fine.
Yeah, everyone says it's good.
Yeah. Okay, and here we can go a little bit into that. Here on this image, you see this little colored checkerboards. They're called LUTs, lookup tables, and that's what we use for grading. You use the same things in movies.
Yeah, we
Or-
can actually use it even in OBS.
Yes,
Funny
yes.
enough, that's why I've heard of them. I personally didn't know either.
And this is what we use to give like a certain look to a certain time of day. So the fog is, for example, relatively desaturated, no strong colors, slightly gray, bluish. Just thought this might be interesting for you guys to see
So
as
I'm
well.
curious because like this is something, because it's obviously a very technical thing. The LUTs, like how do they apply the color, even though the colors in the image itself, like that square, are very bright?
Okay, that's
I don't know if that's hard to explain, but
no, I guess not. I mean, basically, you have your base, which is just like all the colors and different gradients, and then the engine just looks at this created LUT and just looks at the difference between the basically vanilla version, the base version, and this created LUT, and then it just calculates the difference and applies this calculation to the image.
okay.
If this makes any sense. It's just that. It's a lookup table. Basically, it says like if the color is like, let's say RGB values 100, 90, 80. With this LUT, you now 104, 86, 80 or something like that. It's just pairs of values basically, something like that.
Okay. I think that was it for
Yeah,
those
that was it for the images. Do we have some more questions we could take probably?
Yeah, I did read some people talking about should I just play some of the newer.
Yeah, we can just run some videos in the background.
They are newer
Yeah.
fog.
So this is the current version we have. We just let it run in the background.
Yeah. So I did read some people asking about a time of day called snow. Are we ever gonna get snow in Hunt?
I don't think it's so likely. No, I don't think anybody internally requested that so far or talked about it.
Guys, if you really want snow, make sure we have a bunch of people requesting it on the feedback website. Who knows?
I don't know if it's does it snow in Louisiana?
I mean,
Maybe-
that is a good question.
Maybe
I
every
don't know
once
if that
in
happens.
I don't know, maybe very rarely or something like that. But
Yeah.
I haven't seen much snow in like reference pictures.
Yeah, exactly.
We of course also for all the lighting scenarios we use of course many reference pictures. I would love to show you a little bit more where we're coming from, but I can't. I mean, this is not legally allowed to show you
Yeah.
all these pictures from other people because we work a lot with photo reference, obviously. And
Sorry, it doesn't snow in the bayou. We can't have snow in...
I mean, you can prove me wrong. I don't mind. Just as far as I know, I don't think it snows. No.
No, I don't think so. I mean, it is very southern, so I doubt it. But
Yeah.
maybe once in a blue Monday. But yeah, in general, other questions do you guys have in related to light or into fog? So we can answer some questions. Let me see. So we had Smacko. He said, "Hi there. I have a question about the fog. When using sniper rifles, is it going to be as hard to see it as it is at night, or is it going to cut through a little bit?"
Yeah, I mean, we covered this a little bit already, that the fog is actually less strong in the foggy setting than at night on a distance. So personally haven't compared the two, but I mean in terms of sniper rifles, but I think it should be easier. Yeah. The fog is sort of like a supplementary light setting to the sniper rifle. So it's not a coincidence that we developed them at the same point, because we had the sniper rifles and they're of course very good for long range, so we wanted something to balance that a little bit and shorten the view ranges a little bit. This is why these two come now really close to each other.
Okay. This is a different question, but how does the sunlight work in the fog?
Okay, yeah, this is something which is actually quite hard to do, because at the moment our sunlight is always relatively hard. So we don't have this really diffused shadows which you would have in a fog, in a real fog setting. So you would the fog rays would diffuse all the light and it would get really soft and really nice. This is something we at the moment cannot do. We're working actually on solutions to make that better. They're still a little bit away. The way we handle it right now is just very easy. We just have a very weak sunlight, so it's not so apparent.
Yeah.
But if I would make the sunlight stronger, you would see relatively hard shadows and it would just look very out of place, which was actually visible in these earlier shots, the progress shots, because there the sun was much stronger and it looked really off in some cases.
Yeah. Okay. Then there was something, and that is actually related to what we actually had some images for, because I think it was the ones with the let me see, where was it? What was it? Oh yeah, here one. So someone asked, according to that, well, it was more not really about a question, but something that he noticed. He said, in real world fog, it only happens early in the morning or night, so there should be no fog during midday. But technically that is not true. I mean, there can be fog during the day.
I think so too. I mean,
it's not likely, but
yeah, I thought about it a little bit, and I think the probability is probably higher during the morning and the night, obviously. But I think it's absolutely possible to have fog during the day. There's also something which is a bit related to our lighting setup. I have to explain this a little bit, but basically what we're doing is we have our outside sun direction, and on the interiors we need to enhance the light coming from outside a little bit. We have an artificial light setup to light interiors, a bit more like a staged movie setting, and we cannot change the direction too much where the light is coming from. So in this case, if it's really night or morning, the sun would be so flat on the ground that it would lead to some problems in our interior lighting. Then basically our setup the angle would be too far off. We have some leeway there, so we can change this a little bit, but in this case we actually moved the sun higher in order to not have this really strong light source from one side and the weak light or the non-light source from the other side. For balancing reasons, we actually did move the sun higher, so nobody
technically
has,
it would be brighter during the day.
Exactly. So nobody has like a benefit, or it was for balancing reasons actually, because there was this old problems where the one side was always super bright, and that's what we didn't want.
Somebody actually mentioned something interesting. Don't the tier 3 hunters have like a disadvantage on the fog maps because they are darker clothed? But that, I mean, and then again, the white shirts usually have a disadvantage, so maybe that's like the more balanced. But I don't think it matters too much personally. I think you still see the white shirts better than the so far I've seen them. But there was also another question. So someone asked about the time of day, or the time, what was this about nights, and with the fog, that the nighttime in the E3 trailer in 2017 that we showed originally looked different. What did we change, and like why? Because people seem to really like it, and they were just curious why it changed.
2017 night.
So like I think that's a gameplay.
Yes. Many things.
But I don't know if that's because it was darker or not. But
many things. The fog was probably a bit stronger. That could be absolutely true. But you also have to understand that this was probably a portion of the map where night just worked extremely well. And I think in the current night, we have areas of the map that will look relatively similar to that. Apart from that, it's such a organic process, such an iterative process. It's hard for me now really to pinpoint exactly this was this and this and this and this. It's just we work on this time of days pretty much constantly, because there's always little tweaks. So it definitely got a bit brighter. We changed the grading a little bit because we figured that the fires and the other lamps were turning very yellow and very almost like a greenish tint at night.
Okay,
so we changed the grading to bring them more back to orange. It's hard for me to tell exactly what changed there.
It's been quite some
I would have
time.
to see like the footage side by side now, and then I could probably answer this a bit better.
Okay, so let me see what other questions we have. Does the sight get improved the higher you go on object/roof church on the fog map?
Yes, to a very minor degree. We have a little bit more fog on the ground level, but it's really not so much.
So wouldn't it then be that I mean, in a way, from how I see it, if you have the fog on the floor, wouldn't it be harder to see people that are in that fog on the floor if you look from the top rather than directly at them?
Yes, depends on the intensity of the fog, I guess. But you can actually see it in the footage. You see that the treetops have less fog than the bottoms.
Yeah.
You can actually tell. So we try to get a little bit of a gradient in there. So this is also more interesting in a way than for the eye, because then not everything is the same shade, and it's just more interesting to look at. But it's pretty subtle. It's not as pronounced.
I don't know if that's really from your side, but how did the fog affect gameplay performance? Did you have difficulties with maintaining steady performance?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we did. Because we optimized this a lot right now already. But we use a lot of relatively big particles to add texture to the fog, just a bit more interest. And whenever like alpha blended, that's like the technical term, but it's like a half transparent particle. Whenever that is relatively big on screen, it needs a lot of fill rate from a graphics card, and this is bad for performance. And because of that, these sort of particles needed to be optimized quite heavily. You can see it here actually in the fog. They're breaking it up a little bit. You can see it there in the sky. Yeah. They're relatively subtle. We don't want to be them like super in your face, but it's best when you actually don't notice that they're there. When you just see, okay, it looks a bit more interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was heavy optimization going on that stuff to get it to work.
Yeah. And just to go back.
Sorry, just one last thing. Like the actual fog itself didn't affect performance so much because we always have fog. Like it's just much less pronounced. We have fog in golden. We have fog at night. It's always there. So that's not really the factor. It's just these added particles.
Someone asked something about the fog in the interior. Will interiors have fog too?
Yes, and I think at the moment the interior fog is a bit too weak. I would like it to be stronger. It's definitely there, but it's more similar to the other time of days. And I think in this time of day it should be a bit stronger, and we will do this as well, I think.
Okay, nice. Let me see. So there was another question about, or like a part of the other one, that with the fog only happening early in the morning, but so flares of fusion should be visible in the fog, and we actually got pictures of that because they are visible in the fog. Let me see if we can quickly do those. So we had a flare. This is a flare in close range. I think it is.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah, because this is the distance. So.
Yeah, actually, yeah. This on this shot you can see it's there, but we should probably have, like, I didn't think about it, but we should have probably taken this more somewhere where it's less shaded.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you have to understand that it's volumetric fog and it actually gets affected by shadow. So we are inside the forest now, and there's a lot of shadow from the trees, and this actually makes the fog less strong. So you can notice when you play the game as well, if you like under a bridge, or if you like somewhere where there's a shadow, you can see that the fog is much less strong, which is also realistic because fog is not, it's just like illuminated particles in the air, right? So if there's a shadow, the particles get less illuminated, which makes sense, of course. So in this case, in other areas it will be probably even stronger than it is right here. So yeah, we have that, and the next one I think shows a flare.
Yeah, it's a flare at a distance. I think then we go, I'm not sure if we...
we have this
fuse.
one.
Yeah, the fuse.
This is a fusey close up. I think the other one was a fusey as well. Oh no, this was a flare.
No, it was a fuse. I thought we had a fuse distance as well, I'm not sure. Yeah, that should be good.
Yes, exactly, yeah. So you see it's actually illuminating the fog. Again, the fog, even though it's called foggy, is not insanely strong. You can still see relatively far. You can see about 80 meters. And some of these effects are much stronger at night because it's dark. You see them better, and the fog at the distance is stronger. So this is also something to keep in mind. Yeah.
Okay. Do we want to go through some general lighting stuff, or do we want to? We can just do some general lighting and maybe some questions more.
Yes, maybe we try to answer the rest of the questions.
Okay. Because we have already answered these, and then we can still do some questions at the end. Let me see. I mean, there's one question we already actually answered, but just a question about the fog. Are there any plans to develop 3D volumetric or rolling fog? But
the fog is volumetric. As far as the rolling goes, yes, we had it way more patchy, way more movement in the fog, but we tried to really calm the image down. And
yes, it's not constantly
exactly, that's not constantly patches there flowing and so on. So we actually moved away from that, and we tried to bring this effect with particles. The particles move, they flow in the air and so on. It's just subtle. We don't want it to be so much in your face.
Can the fog be used as swamp mist during the day? But technically there already is.
Yes, but I think the question refers more to like if we make like specific fog volumes over the water. This is something we could definitely, I could see us adding in the future potentially. We would have to talk about this, but this is a good idea, I think.
I think we've had all the questions that we have prepared then. The distance, light gets approved. 3D, subject lighting, night vision darker. Yes, I mean that was it for the questions from that we had prepared, but if there are any questions related to the fog or lighting, please ask us now. How about a windy, foggy snow map? I think that's too much. I think there will probably be no gameplay of that map. Because at the moment we can't really answer questions that are about anything else. No damage, weapon, balance.
What about implementing dynamic?
Lots changing slightly the mood in different combats and regions. The dynamic, is that even a thing, dynamic light?
Yes. I mean, I know God of War does not only LUTs, but they do like grading dynamically, for example, in different areas. It would be nice, but it would be pretty low priority for us at the moment, I think, to do something like that. There's just more important things to work on. But it would be nice. Yeah, I would love that. I mean, as a lighting artist, I would love that, yeah, for sure.
Okay. Why is the glare in the scopes from certain angles if you have to balance the light to not give anyone a disadvantage?
I think I would have to look at it, but I think you will see probably sun reflections in the glass, something like that. I can't answer with absolute certainty right now because I would have to see exactly what this question was about. But I would assume it's something like that. In the past, we also had like a specific setup of like custom lights that were bound to your weapon and player.
Yeah.
But as far as I know, this is gone now. So this should not affect us anymore because this also added these sort of glare effects. But that shouldn't be in the game anymore.
Okay, let's see if we can.
Yes, there's more questions, I think.
I'm just gonna play some of this stuff. Oh, that's
okay,
very detailed.
That's very detailed. I think we need
Okay.
to talk about this. There's one about sunlight affecting balance. Pull up a bit.
Let's see. Sunlight was affecting balance, but wouldn't it give Hunt another tactical layer that wouldn't have to take positioning into account to make the enemy's vision harder? So like, why don't we add it? Because it would give a tactical.
We talked about exactly that. This was the question from Fanny Fox.
Yes.
And many people actually thought, hey, that would be cool because then where I'm coming from also has like a tactical thing. But you need to keep in mind that your spawn point, and that's basically what it comes down to. It's like you can't, you have a disadvantage of your spawn point then, and that would mean if players can choose spawn points, nobody would choose the ones in the areas facing the sun, and that was basically one of the reasons why we didn't go for it.
Makes a lot of sense. There was one that I wanted to ask, but now already. But there's so many things. Oh yeah, some people are like, why would I take a torch if the game is already bright enough for me to see without a torch? Because it does take some extra slots and.
Yes. The torch is mainly for night. I mean, that's it. Or for underground areas. Underground areas are always dark. But it's mainly for that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I think we should take a look at the general lighting stuff, and then we can have some more questions.
Maybe we should ask in the stream, I mean, how interested are you in like the technical side of things, you know? Is there interest in that kind of stuff? Because I can go a little bit into like the pipeline. I mean, what we use for lighting, and the developer stuff. Yes, please. Yeah. Good enough for me.
Oh no. This is not Dennis. I don't know why it reflected back to your old title, but know that this person's name is not Dennis.
Oh,
his name is Stefan.
It said I'm Dennis, okay.
You have changed. Dennis has changed over the past week.
I feel very honored, I would say.
Don't get fooled. This was not Dennis. This was Stefan all along.
Alright, maybe not start with that one right away. Let's start with something more simple. Yeah, let's talk about light shafts, for example. So we have light shafts in the game that have been there for a long time. This is just like videos showcasing some features of our lighting system. And we also have something called like a glare on top of it, which you can see here. So before it was just light shafts, now the actual glare was visible. And you go back, the glare disappears, it appears as well. And there's a little bit of tiny lens dirt on the lens as well that you can actually see there.
Oh, that's a good question. Have you thought about sun reflecting off the glass surfaces like windows? But I think it does in some places.
Yes, our glass shader is currently getting refactored. So no ETA when it's done. I mean, ETA is
when it's done.
ETA is what is it? Time of arrival. What does the E stand for?
Estimated time.
Estimated, exactly.
Okay,
I don't want to give too much developer slang. I don't know if everybody is familiar with it.
I think people know what ETA means. I don't think it's just developers.
All right. So yeah, this is we will get a better glass shader at some point, and this will have better sun reflections. Yes, we always have the problem in lighting that alpha blended surfaces like glass, which is half transparent, they are lit differently than the rest of the environment. So we have the problem that in dark areas the windows will glow, and in bright areas they're sometimes too dark, and so on and so forth. So it's always a bit of a battle how to match that, which is unfortunately the case. Yeah.
And let's assume the same with water.
Yes.
And no, I feel it's like
water is a very different shader. No, with, yeah, to a degree. We made some improvements there actually. So
yeah, no, at the beginning we had some strange reflections now with
yes,
like weapons and stuff.
So it's like that. Just to maybe describe it very simple. Do we have any shot showing water? Yeah, here we go. So water is like on the line that's more close to the border of the water, we have normally screen space reflections. So we flip the screen image and we do some other computations to showcase like a real-time reflection, which is basically only flip buffers.
Yeah.
And there's also something like called screen space reflections. Yeah, which would be really hard to explain right now, I think. But on top of that, for the areas where we can't do that, you use the cube maps. And the cube maps are just like little boxes, and they capture 360 degrees all around like a reflection volume.
Oh, okay.
And in the past, like older engines, only these cube maps were used for reflections. Now we have real-time screen space reflections, but they will not work everywhere, so we have to mix them with the cube maps. And what we had for the water, for example, is that one water volume, so in this map, the water is not one single area, but it's at different levels. So every water volume could just have one single cube map. So if you had a relatively large water volume, maybe the reflection was accurate in the center, but it was really off at the borders because this reflection volume was just too far away. And there has been improvements made, for example, that we can use more cube maps for one water volume, things like that. So
that someone asked us about the alpha levels. Did you ever have issues with SSR showing alpha channels from the foliage?
Does he mean screen space reflections?
No,
because
I don't know what that abbreviation stands for.
I
don't know. Okay.
Yeah, I saw the question. I mean, there is not so many reflections on the foliage, really. No, we in general we don't have any issues with that. Is it referring to that, or is it referring to like subsurface scattering? Maybe it was just a typo. Oh, you made screen space reflections. Yes. Okay. It's not a big factor, really. I mean, there's of course everywhere is reflections. So not just chrome or water or something like that. Even like dirt has reflections. It's just very diffused. It's very broken up. It's very weak. But there's reflections everywhere. But in these areas like foliage or something, you don't see them that much. And no, I don't think we had any issues there because in general, alpha tested objects which foliage is. So alpha test means you have a mask and either it's on or off. It's just hard, and this is lit correctly. We don't have problems with lighting there. We have on the foliage then subsurface scattering, so we can have translucency to the object. So you can, if you look from the bottom through a tree leaf, you can see a little bit of the sun shining through.
Yeah,
stuff like that. No problems.
Okay.
Alright, so that was it for light shafts. Then we can show, I think the second one is not so interesting. Yeah, we can show.
I wouldn't say we have that much different audio for fog. Like, does it impact the audio as much? No.
We would have needed to add ambient rain effects or something like that.
Yeah,
but no.
But rain, yeah, it's completely.
No.
But fog doesn't really make any noise. I mean,
No.
we don't have any ambient music. I think that would have changed if we did, but no, there's no different music.
So here, that's probably interesting. Another technique we use. This is called SVOTI. sparse, voxel, octree, total illumination.
I know the word voxel. That's as far as that went, and the word illumination.
And this is fundamental to the lighting of Hunt. We use it everywhere. Basically gives us really nice soft occlusion, and it gives us great skylight, great shadows.
So can you explain this in a easy way to people that have no idea what all these words mean?
I show the video first so you can see what it looks with and without, and then I can explain it a bit more. So now I turn it off. There we go.
Yeah.
But that's pretty bad, right? Of course, if we wouldn't have this tech, we wouldn't ship it exactly like that. But basically, it generates a voxel grid out of the whole level, out of everything. Everything is voxelized, and we can say so the voxels are like 3D pixels for somebody that doesn't know that. Basically, little blocks like in Minecraft, something like that.
Yeah.
And then it does advanced lighting calculations based on that thing. So it makes light bounces, for example, stuff that wasn't possible before. So we have the sunlight hitting the ground, bouncing off the ground, just one time, unfortunately. In reality, of course, you have infinite bounces.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's bouncing one time, and then it hits another surface. So if you see here, you see actual bounce light, which is absolutely amazing. And because of this technology, you also have occlusions. You see like the corners get dark and so on. And the whole skylight is a light source. The whole sky is a light source called skylight. So you have the sun, which is like one light source, and
which
then
is obviously more bright.
and which has a direction as well, like
light,
strong direction, which you can see here. You see the sun shadows, and then the skylight is basically a really nice, soft, all-around light, all around the whole level, which is great, of course. We did a lot of optimizations also to this technology to make it run well, to not create stalls. For example, we had a lot of problems with like stalls with SVOTI. When we started Hunt, SVOTI was in an experimental stage. We never shipped a project with it yet. Rise had no SVOTI, other Warface had no SVOTI. So that was like a first for us, and there was a lot of hard work going into this to make this production ready, which is great.
Was this probably like was this time-wise the most consuming, or because this was a new feature that wasn't implemented in all the other games?
That's hard for me to quantify. I mean, this is
I don't know.
So many people do different things. I cannot really answer that.
Okay.
So let's see what else we have. Yeah, maybe here, this is interesting. It's a little bit techy stuff. Here you can see just the actual SVOTI. We have like, we can show different render targets. And now we can see just the actual global illumination that we have right here, which I think is pretty cool. Really nice soft shadows under the trees, nice soft shadows under the houses and so on.
And that's all based from the skyline, right?
Yes. So here you have mostly just skylight. I mean, if you look at this picture, you have here a little bit of sunlight hitting here, touching the trees here and there. Yeah, but this is mostly just lit by skylight. And with older versions of the engine, that would be very hard to do nicely. What you had to do in the past is you used the actual cube maps, these reflection volumes. You used them also for ambient lighting.
Yeah.
And then you would need to place them in like places where they can strategically darken certain areas, and then you need to build it up like that.
And do you think, especially, that this also adds very much to the realism of the game compared to, because like if I feel like the older shots also from the fog didn't have this yet, if I'm correct?
They had it, but it was just not well tweaked. I think. Yes. Yeah, right now in this current version, this is really important for the look as well, because it gives you this nice soft image. There I just typed in something wrong. So now This is just me messing around in the console of the editor. Now I turn it off.
Yeah.
You see again, like the difference is enormous. It just looks totally horrible.
I mean, this is just all noob questions, but for example, that building that's how it's like modeled originally, then, right? Or like colored as well. The compound building, like
yes.
that it's as pink, because like when you see it regularly, it doesn't have that pink.
I think it's a bit misleading now because it's not the pure colors of the building.
Okay, yeah.
So not really. This is probably something I could have shown as well or prepared, like the actual, we call it albedo values, like the pure diffuse colors. No, this now is affected by cube maps, and the cube maps are blue.
Okay.
This is why they give the red like a pinkish tone.
Yeah.
And now you've seen again without. You see it's like
really
gigantic difference. Really makes or breaks the lighting.
Yeah.
We're very thankful for this feature.
Yeah, it definitely makes it very realistic compared to the other.
And also, it saves us, to be honest, a lot of time. In the old workflows, we would need to place a lot of cube maps by hand, which we still need to do for the reflections, because this just handles the diffuse part of the lighting, but the specular reflections, they are handled by cube maps or like real-time reflections. So we still need to place a lot of cube maps,
but a lot.
A lot less, and also we don't need to be as careful as in the past by placing them, because they don't affect the actual brightness of the lighting, which is great. It's really amazing.
Nice. Yeah, I can imagine anyone who comes in middle stream, it became really technical. So we are talking a bit about the general lighting in the game.
Yeah.
We've talked about the fog before. If you guys still have some questions about lighting or the fog, definitely ask us. I know this is probably a lot more advanced than a lot of people. For me, it's even things that I've never heard of, so yeah.
I'm from Germany, yes.
Yeah.
There was one question. The beginner stuff. I just want to touch a little bit on it. I think it might be interesting for you guys to, just to see like what's behind the scenes, basically.
Yeah. It's crazy to imagine like how deep this goes, because like a lot of people are with a lot of functions like, oh, just add this to the game. Oh, just add this to the game. That's super easy. But if you see how many details go into just something as simple, I mean, obviously not as lighting, it is definitely interesting. I mean, I personally haven't even seen how detailed this got.
Here's one question by Klauek. Why is sun lighting so strong when you peek out of certain places like Langbar Mill?
Oh, that's the thing that we had with where it peaks when you move. Isn't that the one that we had, like the light shaft, I think, where you look behind the building?
Yes. This is something which is like a very fine balance. We want a certain over brightness effect when you come out of dark places, because it's realistic. Your eyes need to adapt to the new brightness. This is a fine balance. How strong do you do that or not? And we also constantly tweaking our tone mapping, which is like the technical term for it. And this is if many players find this too strong and say, look, I'm too much blinded by the light, there's a very high chance we're going to tone it down, actually. So
if there are a lot of people that have issues with it, I mean, like, in a way I can imagine, because like I personally also notice it too, but it is realistic, because like if you walk out of a dark cave into the sunlight, it's like, can't see anything. I mean, I already have it when it's gray outside, so imagine when the sun is blowing.
Another question by Saffron. Why did you decide to make a fog map instead of dynamic creeping up fog like Battlefield 1? We just wanted to have like a even playing field. We wanted to have this would meet so many new implications. Where does it creep up from? Like the team on this side maybe has a major benefit because there the fog is already there, and the other one is at a disadvantage. So this has lots of implications. We just wanted a new time of day with a different playing experience, and that's basically it.
Leveled. Will you be able to manipulate the patch of fog by using explosions? As in, like, I feel like blowing the fog away?
No, that's not possible. We can have like a wind influence for the fog.
That sounds so detailed.
But this is, I don't think it's really blowing the fog away. It's more like animating the fog. No, I don't think that's possible. I mean, I agree. It would be very cool. but probably it would be better for like a setting that has like really strong fog, where you barely see like maybe 20 meters or something, because then the effect would be really visible. Right now, I think it would not be worth the effort, basically.
Yeah. So I see Ice asks, any plans to add some ambient sounds to the fog contract to add to the immersion? I think I can answer this. I don't think we're gonna do this because we don't want any ambient sound. We have no ambient like music sound in the game, and it would not be realistic. Like, yes, it can maybe make the everything feel more ominous, but it would not be realistic because there are no like there's no reason to have music playing when you're in a game that's as much as about realism as we can.
I think it's also a conscious decision because we have so many sounds and
yeah, exactly, it would distract as well.
Yes, exactly, and there's already so much stuff that it would just interfere. Yeah. All right, I can show another one. Yeah, let's talk about the grading. That's probably interesting for you guys as well. I mean, hopefully. I talked a little bit before about this lookup tables, which we use for grading. And this is the golden setting now. This is actually how it looks like without any grading enabled.
Oh, okay.
This is like the base version. So the whole look that it's so warm and golden is like artistic decision. And this is, we try to first make a completely realistic image. Realistic is this actually. This is more what we would capture with an actual camera.
Yeah, because also the light at the sky is more blue.
Exactly,
it would be a bright day.
Because the golden is not like a sunset. It's more like an afternoon lighting or something like that. Maybe evening, but it's not a yellow sunset. So the realistic lighting would be more like that. And then the creative direction was similar to what you would do in a movie or something like that, is to I want really golden, warm tones. I want to have a certain atmosphere, stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is where the grading comes in then later, again with this lookup tables. Yeah, just to give you a little bit of insight. Now we apply it again.
Like, even though it's realistic, it does look more plain, if that makes sense, without the grading.
Yes, it looks a bit boring. I mean, the image is a bit flat, and now you don't. The best thing is if you don't really notice it so much. It still looks natural, but you see it's very more warm, and it has this sort of like southern Louisiana vibe. Yeah. And this is something we totally strive for, of course. Yeah, we want to make it feel warm and hot.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, that's probably interesting.
Yeah, in general, I know you guys always ask a lot of questions that are not particularly related to the streams, so we won't answer those on these streams, but there are other streams that we do. A lot of questions already been answered, or a lot of answers you can find on when is it coming for a lot of features on the roadmap. So definitely check out our roadmap at huntshowdown.com/roadmap. You'll be able to see a lot of the stuff that we're getting in the game, like female hunters and South American servers. All of that is planned, and we are working on them, but they are not the focus of the stream. Obviously, this man cannot answer any question you have and throw at him, but or weapons of new tools, so definitely ask those, or join our Discord, discord.gg/huntshowdown, because that's where we have a different group of developers, all where you can answer or ask and answer questions.
Yeah, let's take one from Mr. Gibbons. How would it look like with the kind of lighting you get before a storm? Is there a preset for that we could see? We have actually many different time of days, much more than we showed so far.
Because we already have like 3 or 4 like daylight time of days.
Yes. We have much more prototyped, but they're not ready yet to show to the public, basically, and we haven't decided yet what we're gonna do next. There's many possibilities, but something with a more ominous sky or storm or something, that's definitely something we also talk about. Yes.
Can't show it, unfortunately.
So let's see what else we have. Let's show a little bit the volumetric fog. Here we have some shot of the interiors. You can see how it's actually broken up. So we have a 3D procedural noise it's like a Perlin noise, sort of like clouds in Photoshop. Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
Rings a bell.
Clouds in Photoshop, I get that.
Okay, and we can use that to break up the fog to create these patches, and we can manipulate the strengths of it and so on. And here you see actual fog rays coming in to the interior, and a lot of these have been, now you see I make it really strong, I make it weak, now turned off the fog completely. So the interiors, every single interior has an additional fog volume attached. So the level of fog is on the interiors always stronger than on the outside.
Yeah, makes sense.
To get this really like dusty vibe going on. Yeah.
Whereas the little particles.
And you see it's also animated, yeah? You see it's animated. It can be affected by wind. It's very cool.
But that is way deeper than I thought. It's really, really cool.
Now turn it off again, make it really strong, and now I can basically, this is the version without any noise added, and I can say how much I want to subtract the noise from it. And now I turn it to 0, now I subtract again. Yeah, that's very, very easy, and breaks it up really nicely. Just showing off the tech a little bit.
So when can we play? The fog map is already on the test server. The test servers were live, but they were taken down again to apply some updates, fixes, and should be live pretty soon. But definitely check it on our social media or Discord or Steam, because we'll let people know when they go back live again.
One question, if we by Exile Cyan, have you guys analyzed the fog survey yet? Can you share any info?
Oh, no, I don't think we've analyzed it, but we don't have that information on the stream right now. I wasn't the one that was doing the survey, but we have changed some things. I don't know. I don't think about the fog, because the fog definitely takes more than that. I don't know if you know if we changed something about the fog in the past day.
We did internal surveys. So what we do is we do.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but not the survey we did.
No, not this one, but I can still. It's still related. So we do a lot of internal playtests, and after we internally playtest, we do surveys. And in general, the fog has been very positively received. And right now, we have no further changes based on this kind of feedback or the surveys we did internally.
Not yet, because the survey's been done yesterday. Let me see. Someone asked something. Is the fog subtraction trick available in 5.5 full release?
Yes. I mean, this has been in for quite some time. This should be possible. Yes.
Awesome.
I think what a lot of people don't get is that we actually have to subtract. This was same when I first started using it. I thought like, okay, now I add this noise, but it's not really how it works, because then it's not so pronounced. You need to just start with something strong, and then you subtract from it, and then it works much better.
Okay. About the flashlight, will it have any interaction with the amount of fog on the map?
With the amount? I mean, I don't really understand.
Yeah, I think just in general, if it has effect on the fog, like, or that it interacts with the fog.
Yes, it does. It's just the flashlight is very weak light source, so we're not going for like a modern day flashlight that you see in like movies. It's just very weak, and which is a conscious decision that we made. So I think it affects it, but just not so much because it's weak. Okay.
Was there anything else you wanted to show, or?
I mean, we can go into the super technical stuff just to see a little bit what is going on.
We'll allow one super technical stuff.
Okay. So I show you a little bit like on the interiors. So we have this light source set up, which we basically enhance the sunlight. So this will be at the beginning. You see, it looks like that, and then if we disable these artificial light sources, it looks like that. And this would be just the sun coming in. It looks very flat. It's not pleasant enough. Now I enabled it again. And then we have sort of like an internal light database, basically, which we can use for all these lights. We have presets for everything. And then we also did a logic with schematic. We use a lot of schematic nowadays from CryEngine. You see now the different presets.
Oh yeah.
Now, for example, I turned off the shadows.
That makes it look great.
Which of course hurts a lot. we try to minimize the amount of shadow casters. That's a general performance related thing. So we try to minimize it to like 2 or something like that for an interior lighting. So most lights have no shadows. And now I will turn off the GI actually, so you can also see that. I see how much we actually get from bounce light. So this is from this. This is all bounce light from the GI system. This is no bounce light. So we rely also on interior lighting very heavily on the bounce lights. There was that, and then
I see some questions that I quickly want to answer. So yes, we don't have a flashlight, but we have an electric lamp because obviously there were no flashlights back in the day. Let me see. We can obviously not answer anything weapon related today or anything like this. I saw something else. What is the current time of day for the daytime contract? Is it close to dawn or close to dusk?
closer to dusk.
Yeah.
Yes.
Close to dusk.
It's more like an afternoon, evening.
Yeah. Is it possible to strengthen the light source that emanates from your co-op partner so you can see them better? I assume the blue border, but
I think so too, yeah.
not for them in game.
It's also not really a lighting question. It would be more for the UI department. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that was about it. I have a lighting question. How did you feel knowing this? How do you two feel knowing the stream brightened up my Thursday afternoon? Well,
that's nice.
We're happy about that, definitely. We're very glad. I know obviously some people are like, okay, the stream is pretty difficult for us because it's very technical, but obviously we want to show different aspects of the game because obviously lighting, as you notice from the things that we just shown, is a very big part of the game and makes the map look and feel way different than when you wouldn't have all these things.
Yeah.
So but definitely other questions will be answered any other time. Oh, that's an interesting question. So Noble asks, I love the visuals of the game. They're impeccable. And are you planning to go forward with the aesthetics of the game in the cost of performance or balance the game out for medium computer rigs? Well, it's obviously a tricky question, but I definitely think that we stay with the aesthetics. Like the aesthetics, we're not going to, just make the game look less good. But I mean, you can probably maybe say some more about that.
It's exactly like that. I mean, we optimize technologies which we have right now a little bit more. So for example, one thing is that we probably add more environment particles, things like that. So currently we have mostly fire and a little bit of smoke and so on. But there could be more. That would definitely be a possibility. But particles used to be relatively expensive. Now they are cheaper. So that could be something in the future which enhances the visuals without impacting the performance too much. But of course, we always have to profile that. You guys have to understand that performance is incredibly important for us right now. We have dedicated people that work on nothing else than just performance. And everything we do goes right now through heavy performance testing. It was same with Fog, like that it performs well was one of the highest priorities. It went to many playtests from QA, from the team. So that's something we want to make the game run really well, but also of course add little things that makes it more beautiful. But in general, I think we're quite happy with the visuals right now, and we're definitely not trying to downgrade that or something like that. If this was going, where this question was going.
Let's see. Events of fire having impact on lighting. There was one question that I remember from before. That when you hear thunder, do you see lightning? But you should see the lightning. It just always comes later because if you're in real life, you first hear the sound because the sound travels faster than light, and the lighting comes. And I think.
What is the question? So
someone asked, why is there no light of the lightning after the thunder? But I think most of the times we always have that, unless it's probably like further away.
So
you know how you're in the game, you hear the thunder.
First,
yeah, the thunder always
comes. And then comes the lighting
later.
later, yeah?
Yeah.
And then he says that there
he doesn't see the lightning.
Doesn't see the lightning. Okay.
But that should always be like most of them you do. It just comes later.
Okay, maybe there is some timing desync. I mean, could be.
That I'm curious about. Is it also really the case that do we have? That's just a personal question for myself that I just realized. With the lightning, obviously, the further you're away, the later you hear it after you hear the sound, or the later you see it after you hear the sound. Is that also in game? Like if you were, let's say, 1 kilometer further away than the person there, will he hear it or see it faster than the other person?
I really can't answer that.
Okay.
It's purely audio stuff. I have no idea how this was implemented, to be honest.
Well,
I think there was another question if you go up. Something about dynamic time of day, I think. Day-night cycle.
Yeah, we already talked about this. Oh.
Yeah. I mean, right now we have no plans for day-night cycle. It's just the rounds are too short, and it would mean a lot of effort from our side, which is, I think, better spent elsewhere on working on other parts of the game.
Mm-hmm. Faster than light, yes. Light is sound is faster than light, right? Oh, is now reversed.
Sound is slower.
Reverse. Sorry, my brain is not working functionally. Like the light is faster. I don't know why I said the sound.
I think we got it wrong. Yeah, we said the sound.
I don't know why we said it reversed. Other way around. Yes. I don't know why. It's late. It's already the afternoon.
Yes,
Thursday.
yes. You guys are right. You guys are right.
I'm sorry, I forgot. Yeah, no, light travels. I don't know why I thought sound.
And hear thunders, but there's no flash. Will this feature be
So that's
improved?
probably why if you hear the flash, or if you hear or see the flash, you hear the sound. He probably was waiting for the flash to come after. Maybe we were all confused. That can be all the things. Sound is faster than light.
Sound is faster than light.
Don't all think.
Anyway, I mean, we can definitely have a look at that. I mean, we can see if that's the case. I never noticed that myself, but
it's probably because it comes before the sound.
It's probably because sound is faster than light.
Yeah, sound is faster. Oh, okay. Right. We're not answering anything about reconnecting or servers right now, so I please ask us in the Discord, but we are not answering right here. But definitely some people can already answer it. But the South American servers is something we're working very hard on, and reconnect option is make it harder that you don't lose your hunter in general, so we don't have a reconnect option that we're working on right now. Yeah, you should hear the thunder after seeing the lightning. Yeah, that's probably why. I don't know if that person thought like, why is it that you know hear the thunder but don't see anything? It's because the flash already happened.
Yes, exactly. I'm just looking at the questions. I'm gonna wait, I'm on the wrong mouse. Can you scroll up, please?
Okay.
Are there gonna be different times of night with different lighting in the future?
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't think that's so likely. We will most likely do another time of day which is not night, because we have a night, and I think the second night is not
a bit redundant.
So high up the list.
I feel with night, it's probably harder to experiment than with times of day, because the day can change so much depending on obviously. But there was someone I know that Kellyfish. I would like to ask you if you can message me on the Discords, then I can answer you there. Also, let's mention 2-second delay given between the lightning flash and the thunder to give player a chance to mask loud noises. Okay. If you see lightning and hear thunder nearly at the same time, the storm is directly above you. Yeah, exactly. That's why I was curious if that really happens in the game, if there are people further away from the thunder or lightning. But I don't know. An audio thing. No. I'm actually very curious about that now.
Will Nightmare mode have its own lighting and other effects? To be decided.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Okay.
There was a question about water reflection for weapons.
Oh yeah, that it shows high, yeah.
We are looking into this. We're currently looking into also refactoring the water shader. It's difficult. You have to understand that these sort of reflections are not fully realistic. You're basically always flipping the screen to a certain degree, or you do some other sort of hacks. And you will always have problem in some cases. So the weapon reflection might be better, but then in another area you will have other problems. So we will make improvements on that, but don't expect absolute perfection in this.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, the 2001A error, we actually think we found the solution, so they are actively working on.
Will you lower the amount? So Infinite Acel asks, will you lower the amount of light in the night map? We just increased it, so that was a conscious decision to make it a bit brighter, because we got many comments that it was a bit too dark.
Yeah,
and now we see how it goes. If there's a majority that says we want it much darker, then we will make it darker. But for now it's brighter.
I want to see, because I know we also got some Steam questions, but they are the reason that we haven't answered a lot of the Steam questions is because most of the questions obviously at the moment are very general, and the questions that we usually answer are already answered in one of our other live streams. But I can quickly go through some questions that people on Steam ask. This game is not a battle royale. Everyone can get out, because technically everyone can survive, but everyone can also die. Yeah, we are. I'm very sorry, but we have a lot of channels, and some questions are, as I said, very generic.
You can run some more videos, right?
We got Asian servers, Australian servers, EU servers, and US servers. We are working on South American servers and on Russian servers. They are just taking a little bit longer, but they are on our roadmap, so definitely check that. Will the game have a campaign? I mean, technically there is some sort of, it's not really a campaign, but the campaign is that you have to go for the bounty and try to get out with as much bounty as you can if there's 1 or 2 bosses.
I think this is more referring to like a classical campaign. Right?
Yeah, but
like
it's
story
exactly, it's no story mode. Like, we have lore in the game, but it's more soft lore, so there are things around, but not, you know, like directly. Will it have a Linux client? Probably. It's at least not planned for any future. At the moment, we are PC.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that we pretty much answered most of the questions. If there are some last questions about the fog or lightning, please ask us. We already explained dynamic lighting is something that is low priority, but it would obviously be cool, but there are more important things that we want to add to the game right now.
There's a question about do you plan on adding any lore, whether like Hellstorm or something? Right now not, but we do have prototypes on this sort of stuff as well.
Yeah. Oh, Gunsmoke.
I think, wasn't there like a video where we go really through the development of Hunt and showing like the old prototypes?
Yeah, we have some of the developer dev diaries. Wow.
Wasn't
the
there
dev
one
diaries that goes about like how we went from the older game concept to the new game concept.
Wasn't there one with like the Apex Predator and this sort of stuff? No, because this had this. There was in a really old version of Hunt there was something called the Switch, and this is where basically the sky turned completely red and the whole world went upside down.
I don't know if that was in one of our developer diaries.
Okay, then
maybe, but yeah, they are on our YouTube channel, so you can watch them there if you want to. How will the fog react near open fires?
Sorry again?
What about the fog near open fires? How will it react? So like obviously light or like fog is water, and like if there's fire.
It will be illuminated by it, yes, but since this is daylight, and if you have like a campfire at daylight, it's not doing that much. It's not illuminating it like crazy. It will be much more illuminated at night, for example.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's a good time for us to
yes.
Call it an afternoon. Thank you very much, Stefan, for joining.
Thank you, Janika.
I hope I say Stefan.
Stefan.
I'm sorry, I don't have that German accent.
That's fine.
But yeah, I hope you guys got all your questions answered for light and fog. As we mentioned multiple times, general questions will be answered on our Discord, as well as on Steam or social media. Definitely reach out to one of those there. Watch the roadmap at huntshowdown.com/roadmap. Very original. And yeah, we hope you guys have a good afternoon or night or evening, morning, wherever you are, hungover from the 4th of July, whatever. And we see you guys on the next developer live stream. Next week, Thursdays are usually the developer live streams where we go more into As you can see, sometimes technical stuff, sometimes less technical stuff, weapon balance, etc. And yeah, we hope to see you guys on the test server soon. I'm not sure exactly when we're gonna have it on the test server, the fog again, but this should be this week, hopefully. And then we will see you guys next time. So have a good night. Bye,
See you guys. Bye.